Hey guys, it's India with Natural Divinity. So I just wanted to tap in with you all and discuss you all about my spiritual awakening. So I've always been like a spiritual person, very highly connected to the ethers and divine for as long as I can remember. My family, I would definitely say, are super intuitive, witchy, psychic like, but I don't really feel like a lot of the women and men really tapped into that like I am doing. So, even from a young age I can remember me astral traveling, and if you all don't know what that is, I will definitely make a video about that too. I remember my mom, it was like I was sleeping, but I was outside of my body, and I heard my mother come in my room and say, "Hey, time to wake up." And but then I realized I was still sleeping, and then after that, my mom knocked on the door and said, "Hey, time to wake up." So it was almost as like I foreseen what was going to happen or knew what was going to happen. At the time, I didn't really understood it. And I don't really think that, you know, any of my family really understood it and was in any position to try to help me, utilize these different skills and abilities that I had. So I do remember my mom buying her first tarot deck, and she got into tarot. And I remember her doing a reading, and she did a reading with me and my boyfriend at the time, and I was like 15 around this time. But in being being trying to be grown and everything, we were sexually active or whatever. So I had ended up pregnant, and my mom did a reading and basically was telling me that I was with child, but I was going to lose this child and everything else like that. Well, it actually ended up happening about a few weeks after. But my mom had no idea what she was reading or what was going on or anything else like that. And that's what kind of like made me kind of, these cards are very strange, but they're sitting here telling the story and, reading off of this energy that is true. And that's kind of like been a thing like that's made me super drawn to them. And I want to say that my spiritual awakening started in the end of, well, 2018. I want to say the kind of the beginning of 2018. That's when my spiritual awakening started, or quote unquote, I was going into a dark night of the soul. Okay. And if you don't know what a dark night of the soul is, I will definitely be making a video more depth in that. But pretty much, I was just, when you go through a dark night of the soul, you kind of, well, when you first start your spiritual awakening, you start seeing what's called angel numbers. And I remember, it was a certain number that always seemed to follow me, which was 911. And people would often think that 911 is a bad number, but it's actually a call to certain people on this planet that are known as light workers. And I never knew that until, around 2018, I started seeing 911 again. And then I started seeing my birthday, which was 915, and it kept just popping up, popping up. So it wasn't until 2018 where I sat there and I broke up with my then boyfriend. I moved back to my home state. And what had happened was, in that midst of when I was breaking up with him and moving, I started seeing 1111. And it was just like that. It was like automatically I looked at the clock and I just knew it was something happening. But I couldn't put my finger on it. Um, therein, going down these trickle of events, 2018, I ended up moving back to my home state. And then I just ended up going through these slew of just major traumatic events. And, I just felt like I couldn't get a handle on it. Not realizing now, what I know now is that I was going through what's called a karmic cycle. And me being the quote unquote person of my family to, make our path a lot lighter, a lot brighter. It kind of just was. I just didn't have any idea what was going on, and then for some reason also too, I was definitely getting more into. I've always been tapped into like doing yoga, things like that. But yeah, I started getting into what's called Kundalini Frequencies and Kundalini Yoga. Give me 1 second, sorry. Okay, I'm back. All right, so I started getting into what's called Kundalini Frequencies and yoga, and I would just sit there and lay and listen to that. I definitely feel in some way, shape, or form it's definitely helped open up and start my Kundalini awakening, which is also the spiritual awakening too. And there's a lot of symptoms and effects that happen when you start going through a Kundalini awakening. You physically feel it. You physically, it's alternating your DNA as you're, transitioning to this higher level, ascending, so to speak. But I had no idea what was happening. I just kept thinking that like, what the fuck? Like my life is just spiraling out of control. I'm literally losing everything. And, I just felt like the crappiest mom and person on earth. Like I just could not get a handle on keeping a steady job. I couldn't keep a handle on my relationships. I couldn't get a handle on, just a whole bunch of things, like things that I was trying to make go my way. It was not going my way. But in part of that, looking back, it was spirit waking me up, saying, "Hey, like you got to get up, and it's time for you to really start walking into your true path and doing what you're actually here to do." And the whole thing with me being a green witch and everything is it's me using the earth um, to to better um, to better utilize energies and things like that. Like certain herbs you can use to bring in abundance, certain herbs you can use to bring in love, certain herbs you can use to bring in to relieve your anxiety or things like that. I will say that once I start surrendering, so to speak, for the unknown, and I had terrible, terrible anxiety, terrible social anxiety also, and I would get depressed a lot, and I will say that once I started realizing and meditating a lot more, that my depression went away. I was a horrible person at biting my fingernails. I stopped doing that. When you kind of get into this place where you're just like, okay, I know what it is that I deserve. I know my worth. And, Spirit, if this is in alignment with the path that you have, I am wanting to have this, that, and the third. And you ask spirit, ask your angels, ask your ancestors that are there for your positive influence, your spirit guides, to help align you in your highest timeline, you know. And I will say, so to speak, like going through the dark night of the soul, like that is not for the faint-hearted, okay? It was rough. And I will say, a little bit after my daughter is when I really, really started to wake up. It was like I was almost in between this sleep stage and then awake, you know. But after I had my daughter a little bit, probably about 7 months or so, 8 months, 9 months, somewhere along that line, I will say that that's when I really started waking up. Like, I started seeing that I had been in a abusive narcissistic relationship. I had started to see that, you know, I was being controlled with finances. I was being controlled with isolation. And, you know, I had no idea because I was operating off of this codependency for so long of thinking that I needed to prove my love to other people to gain that love back, that I was so blind to what was going on, you know? And it was just like, literally, I just woke up and I started seeing everything that was happening, you know, that literally I was being manipulated and cheated on. And it was just like, it just kind of just like, literally my eyes just opened up to everything. So your spiritual awakening definitely happens when, for one, you're least expecting it. I would not recommend trying to look to go into a spiritual awakening on purpose, because if you do try to force your third eye to activate and to open, it's going to reveal a lot of truths that, in part, that if you're still asleep, you're not going to like, and you're not going to know how to handle it per se. And but if you are watching this video, then I'm pretty sure that you already are curious about it, or already on the verge of trying to wake up or are awakened. And you might even have the same experiences that I had. I will say in my spiritual awakening, which this happened in 2019. 2020, last year actually, is when I fully started waking up. And it was just like I slowly, but before this, I would say I was in therapy for about a good almost 2 years prior to this, because I started seeing that, hey, I did have some generational traumas and things like that. And, you know, those things kind of embed in our DNA, and it can transfer over to our children. And you know, I always questioned it. I always knew it was something that I needed to fix within myself. But ultimately, I feel like me getting pregnant with my daughter was definitely like the turning point. Like, hey, I gotta fix this. So my therapist definitely helped me a lot, because luckily, for whatever reason, and I will probably credit that. I will not probably, but I am crediting this to spirit. Like, I found her in an instance, but she was in no means advertising as a spiritual therapist, but the fact that she was highly spiritual, she had been in contact with angels, she was healing through meditation, through crystals, and these things I've always been interested in, but I didn't really go into depth with it until after I stopped my sessions with her, because around my awakening, I started feeling like, okay, well, I can handle all of the things that are happening to me on my own. I don't feel like I need to try to do these exercises and work through these things, you know. I was starting to pick up on meditation a lot easier and just on my own pace. And, you know, I was journaling, writing down everything that was happening to me, so that way I didn't feel like I needed to vent to anyone. I didn't feel like I needed to complain and things like that. So you know, she definitely helped me in the way of steering me in some type of direction, some type of clarity. With the fact of me also doing tarot, because I told her I really enjoyed doing readings, and it's always been something that I wanted to do. And in that, I started hearing and feeling my spirit guides, my ancestors talking to me. Me and my sons, we literally done seen angel flashes, and they've touched down in my house about 3 times. Like, all this is real. Like, the spiritual realm, we are so close and so connected to it, and you have no idea. No idea. But it's just the most beautiful thing ever. It is. Um, it's nothing scary about it. I just think more so the fact that we think that things are scary because it's not what we were taught. It's sort of a program thing. And through my spiritual awakening, I definitely had to unlearn a lot of things and deprogram myself from a lot of things that just were not true. You know, I had low self-esteem. I, you know, just kept telling myself all these horrible things about myself that were just not true. And you know, meditation definitely helped me to get connected with my inner self, my higher self, my God self that's within me, okay? God is in each and every one of us. And once we sit here and tap into that, like, our world is limitless. You hear me? Our world is limitless once we tap into that. God sat here and did all this for a reason, because he wants us to get to a point where we can make a heaven-like state on this earth. You know, we already in hell technically. So technically I don't believe in hell. Hell is here on earth. Hell is what you make it. Hell is something that you create. You know, with all the murders, all the crime that we have, the infidelity, things of that nature. That's a whole nother story, but that's hell right there. Well, the fact of that spirit does not operate out of fear. Spirit operates from off of love and truth. That's what that is, an acceptance. Okay. Um, but I will say my spiritual awakening definitely woke me up to the psychic abilities that I've known that I had, but I never really. I was always too afraid to really tap into it. And you know, for one, I've always been a weird person, strange, like always been into etheric studies, um, you know, just super witchy stuff. I've always listened to different type of music that people just couldn't vibe to. But it was a type of mentality I was around. I was just around a lot of low vibration, and you know, I should have been trying to just be myself and live my truth instead of trying to fit into some image or some world that just was not for me. Um, I will say that during my spiritual awakening, I've always been really sensitive with my ears and with my nose, my smell. So through that, I found out that I was clairaudient. I also found, I can't remember the name of what it is, but like when I get messages, spirits sometimes, or my ancestors sometimes give me scents. You know, it can literally smell like lavender, vanilla in this house, and then they'll give me a scent of coffee, and it just happens just out of nowhere. Um, and I get visions, and you know, the first time that it happened, I was so confused. Oh my goodness. Like going through a spiritual awakening, you would literally think that you're going crazy. In all honesty. Um, because it's just opening up your eyes to a world that is thoroughly here, but just people are just telling you that it's not. Okay? God is not a man. God is not a woman. God is feminine and masculine. God is everything. God is all and above. God is within each and every one of us. But it all just depends on how tapped in we are to that and our abilities and everything, you know. But yeah, I mean, meditation definitely helped me. Journaling helped me. Me standing grounded, taking a lot of salt baths, and me practicing like visualizations. Me doing a lot of like just spiritual practices, doing Kundalini Yoga and things like that. That's all definitely helped me to stay grounded, helped me to get closer and find more information, more truths to myself. I will say during the spiritual awakening, you are basically figuring out yourself. So who you knew to be your whole life, that's not you. So you're basically starting from this blank slate. But your soul knows exactly who you are. But you're having to sit here and navigate through that. And that ultimately, I definitely feel like is the most beautiful thing ever. Me trying to relearn myself at 30 and me looking at the reasons why I did certain things, the reasons why certain things have happened. And, you know, it's definitely been a journey and it's been amazing, I will say, just for me to see the growth and everything. If any of you all have any questions regarding the spiritual awakening, let me know in the comments. Let me know how things are going, period, you know. I definitely appreciate you all for tuning in to this video, and I hope you all tune in for next time. Make sure to like, subscribe, and to comment. All right, peace.